各位观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看JxJ论坛，由我 Jimmy 马健，有我们的好朋友 Jim Noteware，我们去讨论这个礼拜的时事。Happy New Year, Jim.
Jimmy, Happy New Year to you. I must ask you before we get started, how did your mother's surgery go today?
We're blessed. God really has blessed our family. We had a lot of faith and everything went well. And it also gave me a chance to experience MD Anderson and Med Center. I never even been there. And it's just a huge, it's a city within a city, but everything went as well as it could be. And I appreciate your prayers for our family and our audiences. But it's fortunate in an unfortunate situation. But we're lucky to be in the best city in the world to cure cancer. There's nowhere else better than MD Anderson. Nowhere.
No, sure. That's very fortunate. And from what I understand, it was a very fortunate result. And she is likely to recover very quickly. And we certainly hope so.
Thank you, Jim. You know, when I'm at MD Anderson and you see why we say this is the greatest country, you see from the surgeons to the doctors to the nurses to the staff, they're from all over the world. I see, Filipinos, Indians, Pakistanis. We see Caucasians, Hispanics, Latinos, Asians, and everyone, and it reflects the patients too, right? And it shows you how lucky we are, how we forget. We as Americans, we're supposed to criticize our government. We're supposed to. They're public officials, they're public servants. But don't lose touch of why we're here. We're all immigrants. We all came here for a reason. And it took 200 years to get to where we are. And if you look back throughout history, we're at a time where technology and safety and health longevity is at historic high throughout human history. And we have more freedom than at any time before. So I hope we don't forget the big picture of how we got here and how we should maintain it for our children or future generations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. When you go back and look, people say we stand on the shoulders of giants because people, everything that's come before us. I once heard a little slogan that said, "Be modest. A lot happened before you were born." And a lot's going to happen all around us and after we're gone too. But it just shows you how important things can be. And particularly here in the United States, we do have some secret sauce regarding the exceptionalism of the United States. And I think part of it is attracting people from around the world. We get the best of everything, and everybody adds a little bit to it. It's my gumbo analogy. Everybody contributes, and they retain their own individuality, but they contribute a lot to the whole, and the whole gets bigger, and the whole attracts yet more people, particularly the best of the best, and they come, and then we give back to the rest of the world more than any other country that I'm aware of, by far. Certainly,
it's open to the world. We were open to the world for a long time. We still are.
Yeah. So, if this were a stock in the market, I would say we're a growth stock.
We've been a growth stock. We hit a little contraction, which is normal in the overall cycle. There's up and downs. We're down a little bit, but we will come back up because we have the infrastructure, the education, and the history to get out of, because the majority of Americans are kind and compassionate, and the majority of us still wants what's best, and not just for ourselves, but for the greater good. The greater good. That's important because I've had family come in from overseas. I've seen, because it opened up because COVID. There were a lot of friends and family. They couldn't see each other for a long time. Couldn't come here. Couldn't go there. The fact is, this is still the best country in the world. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt. We might not be the best in everything, and we don't need to be. But for a country this size, it's uncomparable. So for all the haters out there, the distractors, I say that you are able to say and complain about these things because you're here. And so please,
Yeah, we look better from the outside sometimes than we do from the inside. And And I happen to believe that our greatest threats to our future and the things that we need to worry about are more internal than external. External, people want to come here. We can withstand any foe, but more importantly, we have an open gate, and the gate swings in, a little bit swinging out, but tiny.
Well, as we say this, and I am looking at what's going on in Congress with the speaker situation, and it is very disappointing. I mean, this is nuts that this is historic.
Yeah.
The extremism on both sides and the splinter, it's distressing because we need to have a functional Congress in order to balance the different branches of government. That's how it's always worked, and it has worked. It's not perfect, but it limits the influence, and it creates a better long-term plan that is inclusive of everyone. So now, where do we go from here, Jim? How would this resolve? I mean, it has never happened before. So,
well, I think some people got to get back a hold of their ethics and get back a hold of their smarts. For instance, what Mr. Biggs and some of the other opponents to Mr. McCarthy are, they're just exercising what I consider to be negative power for selfish reasons. It's much easier to say no than it is to say yes on many things, just to oppose things. You get some instantaneous recognition, which is what I think many of these people are after, is say, look at me, look at me. They get their 15 minutes in the sun, but they haven't created anything. In fact, they've helped erode or destroy certain things. And but actually, none of this is new. It's just an increase in the momentum of the downsliding in some aspects of our government and our society. It's look at me, rather than the greater good. I'm thinking about me. And what I want to do is be selfish. I don't want to be led, and I don't care to lead anybody, because by leading things, I take on responsibility, and I would prefer not to have responsibility. Meanwhile, some of the Asian populations that I know, particularly Japanese, Chinese, they have honor through their family. They would not disgrace their family. We seem to have lost some of these people. They don't care. They've lost their sense of shame, and it's really, really very bad. Now, that's this group of somewhere between 6 and 20 people that are making it difficult for Mr. McCarthy. The more curious part is, why is Mr. McCarthy continuing to stand in there? He, like Mr. Boehner before him and Mr. Ryan before him, should look at the group and say, "Fine, I'll let you go. Good luck. I'm here if you need me, but I'm not going to continue to beg. I'm not going to continue to give away and make sanctions that's going to inhibit my ability to perform. You figure it out, and go on. And if the other 90% are not strong enough to overcome the 10% that are recalcitrant, people are going to have to pay the consequences. And sooner or later, something fairly radical will probably occur. I'm not sure what it is. If I were Kevin McCarthy, I would say, I gave it my best shot. This is an impossible situation. It can go on without me, and so good luck. If that happens, and I think inevitably it will, it may take 20 ballots or something. But I think the longer it goes on, the more Kevin McCarthy erodes his own position. And even if he is successful in actually gaining it, which I think is beyond hope right now, it will make it impossible for him to lead. He will be so injured by the process. But I think what will happen is, when he steps aside, his number 2 guy, Steve Scalise, will emerge. People happen to like him. Much of this is personal against McCarthy. It's not for policy reasons. It's personal. It is resulting from feuds in the past that have just materialized and come to the surface now. Scalise, people like him. Will he be an effective leader? Don't know. It's a new form of challenge. It's like herding cats. And I think it's a terrible symptom of other deeper problems within the Republican Party. Maybe it's good that this it's not a little thing, this thing blows up because it'll cause people to wake up and think about what's going on. I just hope it doesn't go on too long.
I mean, 164 years, the history of this Congress, and this is the first time, I mean, 164 years. But what you said is very important. Ethics, your family name, or because of your faith, where you believe. The people in Taiwan always, there's a saying that there's an entity 3 meters ahead of your head. No matter what faith you believe in, there's an entity that is watching you, that watches you all the time. It could be God, it could be Allah, it could be Buddha, but whatever it is, if you do things with that mindset, and if people can't see it, or you will still uphold yourself to higher ethics. And I think that is what we really need to do, and also for the greater group to uphold our public officials to higher ethics, where you would be judged on that, and it should, as it was before, and it really should be. Jim, what you said about Congress is very, very thorough, and it helps our audience understand a little bit. Now, is it possible that Democrats have control and gain the speakership? Because that would give, there will be no checks and balances anymore.
Well, it is possible. A couple of other approaches could work. For instance, excuse me, one of the things that are being talked about now is to be Speaker of the House, you do not need to be an elected congressman. You could come in from the outside. So at some point, many members from both sides of the aisle may reach out and to try to find someone from outside this world that could come in and lead it. That would be a very interesting thing. I think it's a bit of a long shot, but I like the way people are thinking. The other way that it could happen, and this is what's happened in the Texas legislature on both sides, actually, the Republican majority may not be able to agree on a Republican leader, but what they could do is have a moderate Republican stand up and attract a number of Democratic votes to supplement those remaining in the Republican Party. In other words, if someone in the Republican Party went across the aisle and said, I can get 200 of the 218 Republican votes, all I need is 20 Democrats. So why don't you vote me in? And when I come in, I'll work across the aisle and I'll be a moderate leader across, etc. And so I'll get my 219 or 220 votes that way. That has happened a great deal in the Texas legislature with the Republican Speaker of the House. And it happened long ago in reverse with a Democrat Speaker in the House who attracted a lot of Republican votes. Do I think the mood is right for that? No, not now. It's not. And this, again, would be a long shot. But some things are possible. It's very difficult to predict what's going to happen. And I'm sure there's a lot of inside things that are going on now that really will affect the momentum and the result here that we're just not seeing. But again, if I were Mr. McCarthy, I would step aside. I think he hurts himself the longer he stays in.
And there's a lot of negotiations that's unknown. But the fact is that this uncertainty affects the market. It affects. I mean, it is uncertainty is what really causes
the uncertainty is the worst cancer of all. Excuse the pun for today, but it is the worst cancer because it spreads, and when it spreads, it's harmful. It consumes the good around it. It may be only emotional and psychological. It may not be physical, but it very quickly manifests itself into physical results. People get ill. Economies shrink. prosperity weakens, things fail, all up and down the line. You can just trace out some of the ripple effects that go on throughout society, throughout the economy. But the main thing is uncertainty is harmful and it is contagious. It grows.
Would you say, well, before we leave, let's do a quick New Year's outlook.
Mm-hmm.
We know we talked extensively about how inflation will continue. Well, it's better now, but we're going to have contraction. There's no doubt. It will be painful, but necessary. What do you think? Let's say with the real estate market, which is your expertise. What is your prediction for, say, Houston local market, and then Texas and national for this year?
Well, first of all, I think national inflation will continue for a while. I think it will gradually go down because gradually the Fed will get tightening on the money supply, and gradually the supply constraints that are forcing certain costs up will loosen up, and inflation will come down. But it will be slow and gradual. I don't think inflation will get down to 2%, which is where people are comfortable. I don't think that will happen at least until the end of this new year. It'll be at least a year from now before things can stabilize back where they were in 2019. I think it just is going to take that time. And it's partly being exacerbated by the fact that while we have a tight money supply right now, we have a very loose fiscal condition. And so on one hand, the Fed is putting on the brakes, but on the other hand, in part to counter the brakes on purpose, to soften the blow to people, the administration and parts of the Congress continue to provide stimulus to the economy. So they're prolonging the effort by doing what they're doing. And they know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it for their own purposes, et cetera. So I think it's going to be with us for a while. And what that does is continues to lengthen the timing of uncertainty, of confusion, of mixed messages, and lack of economic direction and momentum. So what do I think is going to happen? There will be some real estate gains. There are going to be a lot of real estate losses every day. I either hear about or I read about foreclosures of major properties. And excuse me.
Especially commercial, especially commercial and big office buildings.
Big office buildings now. These great symbols of American prosperity are empty, and hotels are hurting. Big symbols of people's mobility. I'm sorry.
Bless you.
Battling this congestion and cough for about a week now.
Oh, everyone's getting it. It's this dry cough. Everyone's getting it.
Yeah, it's a dry cough.
No, it's not COVID. We know it's not. I've been coughing for a month. You just don't hear it now. But I've been coughing for a month. Doctors will tell you there's nothing they could do. You just have to recover on your own.
You just have to recover. Take some more cough syrup. I should have taken it.
Well, but Jim, with this Houston weather, where it's 80 degrees one day and then 40 degrees the other, it doesn't help.
Well, it's kind of the weather. The weather is kind of like the economy, So some days don't even get out of bed, So
Jim, thank you so much for your time. I hope our audience will have a prosperous new year. In the Chinese lunar year, this is the year of the rabbit. Speaking of which, it is the year of the rabbit.
Well, that means things are going to go fast and they're going to hop along.
Yeah, there you go. And Lunar New Year is very early this year. Lunar New Year is, I think, the 22nd or the 20th, which usually is February. This year,
but now it's January, so it's early.
Yes, it's a few weeks early because based on the lunar calendar. So we will be celebrating Lunar New Year. I think more people celebrate Lunar New Year in this world than the regular New Year. Yeah. But we'll be celebrating close enough this year. Once again, Jim, thank you for the past 2.5 years of insight. I hope we have a lot of people that are that listens to Jim first before they dip their toes back into the stock market. I hope we renew our faith, and I hope all your wishes and your everyone's New Year's resolutions will come through. But you got to stick with it. You got to apply it. I know that personally. I've been through. Last year was one of the worst years for me, health-wise, personal-wise, family-wise. But as we turn the page, I have a new outlook, and we are very confident. And most importantly, we're grateful. We're filled with gratitude. And Jim, actually, for you, it's the same way. I mean, that accident, the miraculous escape barely a month ago, that is a new lease on life, because really nothing else matters.
Nope. And I think there's messages every which way we look, and every which way we've talked today. So thank you for the opportunity, Jimmy, and good luck to your mother and to your family.
Thank you, Jim. And to our audience, Happy New Year.
Good. Next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.